Welcome back to Part-Time Bodybuilder. This is your host, Holly Jean. I have got a very special guest on today, which I'm super excited about. We've been trying to sort this out for a little while, so I'm glad we've managed to pull it off. So we've got Rhea Gayle with us today, and she is all the way out in Mexico. So it is about 2:30 her time, and it is about 7:30 in the evening over here. So thanks for joining me, Rhea. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I listen to this all the time, so I'm really excited to be on here and be part of this. It's awesome.
Oh, I just had a little fangirl moment that you listened to my podcast. I'm like, oh God, what have I said? This is my little lockdown project that I didn't think was going to go anywhere. And I actually set it up because I hate public speaking. So I thought it'd give me a bit more confidence in talking to people and presenting, which it has done, which is mad.
That's awesome.
So yeah, we've got a few topics that we wanted to cover today. So I think we'll dive straight in. We're going to try and cover some things that are potentially a little bit different from what you've covered on previous podcasts. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to chat a bit about no more fear, no more doubts. So I've seen that it's been sneaking up in Instagram captions all over the place. So I just wanted to talk to you about where that's come from.
Yeah. So that really kind of came from the situation last year. And it's kind of been something that even when I was a diver, I would always kind of have like I will put my hands up very, very high and say I struggle a lot with self-doubt. And I've kind of been in situations where, because I've been doubting myself so much, it's kind of caused a missed opportunity and sort of just having the fear of something that there's actually nothing to be scared about. You've just got to let yourself do something. For example, you're scared, you were nervous about public speaking and you've done this podcast, it's taken off, and now like you can interview people left, right and center. So that's kind of where it came from, just getting rid of that doubt, no more fear, and just jumping into things. And like I said, last year it kind of got to the point where I was like, right, this is going to be like my daily mantra kind of thing, of doing things that scare me and just trying to squash that self-doubt.
Something that really resonates with me, because it's something I really struggle with. And like you said, it was the podcast sat in my phone, in my notes for like a year, and I just didn't do it. And there's probably been a lot of things along the way that I've probably, like you say, not done or missed opportunities because I've held myself back.
Mm-hmm.
So was there like a turning point that you were like, right, I've had enough of this now? Was there like a particular event, or is it something that's been building for a while?
So it's always been something that's been building for a while, like, and my close friends will kind of know. But I think the main turning point was like after the whole situation in Australia, and I kind of had the opportunity to be like, right, are we going to try and compete this year, or are we going to push it to 2021? And it kind of clicked, and I was just like, what if I stop being scared? I know that there's one chance to qualify for the Olympia in the position that I kind of was in. There was only that one show in Europe, and I was like, if I want to make it this year, like I kind of need to get my mind right as well. And it was kind of then that I was like, right, let's just do this. Like, and I think that was the main turning point. It kind of throughout that season really went into like my business and like my personal life as well, because little things like I really doubt myself with, and people are like, oh, you shouldn't, but it's something that's so like deep within me that I just really try to make that change.
And so is it something you have to think about almost daily, or was that kind of the case in the beginning? Do you think things have got better now you've kind of been doing it and it becomes a bit more of a habit?
Yeah, so rather than like something I sort of say daily, it's more of like right, it's become a habit. And I think after the 2020 Olympia as well, it really came to light that I am more capable of things than I think that I am. So after that, it kind of really shone the light of no more fear, no more doubt. So now it's sort of just like an autonomous thing where it's like, right, at least 1 or 2 things a day I'll do to push me outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah, that's something I've learned as well, that you're never going to get anywhere unless you do the stuff that scares you, and it's like pushing yourself a little bit more each time.
100%.
And I listened to a podcast, I think it was Mel Robbins, my favorite person ever, but she was kind of saying that worrying and anxiety and things like that become a habit, and you're not, people label themselves as, I've done it before, I'm a worrier, whereas you're not. You've got into a habit of worrying, and you've got to try and break that cycle.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's really nice to hear actually from someone who a lot of us can kind of look up to and see it as at top of their game, kind of say that they struggle with self-doubt, because I think a lot of the time you look at other people and you think they must really believe in themselves because they've got to where they have.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people kind of have that sort of vision of me and sort of say like, oh, you must be so like confident in everything you do. And like I said, like the people that are close to me know that I'm very much like, can I do this? Can I really do this? Am I good enough for this? I am sort of, I'm not good for that in terms of I doubt myself a lot, but I've sort of promised myself like this season and moving forward after what last season brought, that just having that change of mindset, anything is possible.
Yeah, 100%. And so we've spoken a bit about last year, and I don't even know where to begin. We were having a bit of a chat before we started recording this, and we said that it almost feels like a lifetime ago. Like last year was like 5 years in one.
Literally.
So if we talk about the 2020 year, it was probably, how long did you prep for in 2020?
So my 2020 prep actually started in November of 2019.
Yeah. And then you stepped on stage in
March.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because you got on stage, didn't you? Was it Ohio?
Yeah, the Arnold's Ohio, yeah. So that was like my first show of the season. And then 2 weeks later was Australia. And I was like, this is going to be so cool because I've got family that live in Australia, and they're going to get to see me finally compete. So after Ohio, I came home for, I think it was 3 days. And then I flew out to Australia because I knew that the travel and the time difference would just really mess with me. So I was like, get there early, chill, and really just ease into the show. And then I remember I arrived in Australia and like there was things circulating on Instagram and I was like, no, it's going to be fine. I was talking to Corin and I was like, I'm sure this is all going to be fine. And then the next day, all the competitors got an email saying that the show is cancelled. And I was like, okay, that's fine. Like, it's okay. At this time, like, there was no such thing as a lockdown or anything.
No.
And then we sort of had our reverse plan in place. I was like, I can really work on the feedback from the Arnold's Ohio gyms, And then it got to the Monday and it was like, gyms are shutting at midday. And then my flights were cancelled and like everything kind of just like this changed. And it was like, oh my goodness, this is actually quite scary. So 8 weeks later, after being able to get out of Australia, we kind of done a reset when I got home and then pushed food up again. And then it was around my birthday, mid-June, that's when we restarted prep for Spain.
So those 8 weeks in Australia, I can imagine they were quite tough.
Yeah, they were very, very tough. And like I kept sort of fighting with myself because I was like, everybody's in this situation, in terms of, you know, not everyone has gym equipment, not everyone has access to a gym to train at, but we literally had bands and I'd sort of gone from training, just got off stage and everything, and then being thrown into this, and I really sort of mentally struggled and was really like beating myself up because I was like, am I going to progress? Are we going to do this? And then I did have a few days where I wouldn't leave my room. I was really, really sort of down about it because I couldn't see a way out of this. And my body was changing so much, even though we were trying so hard to keep things as they were, that I was like, I don't even feel like an athlete anymore. I got into a really sort of downward spiral with it. But, you know, Corin's absolutely amazing for really keeping you in check and keeping your mind and seeing the positives in things. So it was like when I was able to get home, it was like, boom, let's restart. And that's when my mind was like, yeah, we can do this.
So then it was a couple of months and then you started the prep for Alicante?
Yeah, so I think it was about 6 weeks. So I got home beginning of May, and then it was around my birthday that we were like, okay, if we look at these shows in October, then hopefully the world will be normal by then. Wishful thinking.
And here we are in March.
Like by October, things will be open. There was a couple of shows. They'd moved the Olympia qualifying date, and it was like, yes, I would love to requalify for the Olympia, but we've literally got one shot. And like my starting point was, I was like, oh, can we do this? And I was like, it was one of those where it was like, again, no more fear, no more doubt, just jump in and get it done. So we started around mid-June, so we had about 16 weeks. And then sort of gym started opening up, and it was like every single session was the mindset of this can be taken away at any moment again. So like normally on prep, every single day counts, every box counts, but it was like, Boris could literally take this away from me again. And I don't want that to happen. So yeah.
I think everyone's appreciation for their gym last year has been like massive. And although it's not a good thing, I wouldn't say this has been a particularly good experience, but I think there's things we can take from it. And one of them is to kind of appreciate everything that we've got a bit more.
Yeah, 100%. And it was even like I said, like little things of, you know, before all of this happened, you'd have sessions and you'd be like, oh, that was crap, and really sort of not take any positives out of it. But when you sort of think about how quickly something like that could be taken away, and, you know, it does really heighten your appreciation for the little things.
And I saw that you've kind of taken that no more fear, no more doubt mantra into the gym as well. So it really has seeped into like every area of your life.
Yeah. Most definitely. Because as well, sometimes, you know, when you're trying to beat your logbook, you're ready, like numbers are telling you you're ready to take it up. And sometimes I get to the point where I'm like, oh, can I do this? This is a little bit scary. But it's like, you've got to push yourself out of the comfort zone to grow. So
it's that little sick feeling when you're walking into the gym thinking, oh, am I ready for this? So just out of interest, a random aside, what's your do you have kind of a set thing that you do backstage to kind of prepare yourself to go on stage?
Yeah, I'm definitely a creature of like competition ritual, and I've been the same since I was a gymnast, since I was a diver. I'm not saying it's like a superstitious thing, but it's just like I have my kind of boxes that I tick off, and I know I have my playlist. I'll listen to my music backstage, really sort of focus on what I need to do, and then once the first sort of round is done, then I'm like, okay, because I get very nervous, but in like an excited way. I'm like, I'm ready, but I need to like focus, and yeah.
I'm interested. What's the song that features on this playlist?
Oh, no one judged me, but I do actually. I do actually listen to Disney backstage.
Oh, I love a bit of Disney.
Just get me really like, boom, let's do this. Like, yeah, that's me.
It's one of those like, listen to the words songs.
Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, you can do this. Like, I deadlift to Disney. Like, these songs are so powerful.
When I send form clips to Cuba, sometimes I think, oh God, I really hope he doesn't listen to this with the sound on.
Oh.
We'll go from like rap to like Disney to all sorts.
That's pretty much my playlist.
So was there a shift in kind of the mindset when you were kind of walking out onto stage for Alicante, was it a kind of, this is my shot, or was this a I've got this?
So whatever show I do, or whatever, anytime I've done anything, I've never had the mentality of, you know, this is my show. It's always like, the hard work is done. This is the best I've looked at this point in time. Whatever happens now is a bonus. Because for me, if I start overthinking everything, then I'm like, it doesn't go well.
Yeah.
And then start putting unnecessary pressure on myself. But it was just one of those where I was like, I feel like from the Arnolds and everything that we've gone through in terms of physique wise as well, we've really brought up the bits that the judges wanted to see. So I was more so like just excited to get out there and get the feedback from them. I mean, that lineup was strong, and it was one of those where everyone is going to bring their absolute A game, because it's the only show in Europe at the time in these standings. And obviously the top 3-4 figure would get their Olympia qualification, so it was very, very competitive. So it was just like every single girl brought their A game to that show, and it was just like, I was in awe.
Yeah, and I think it's like going out and enjoying it part, isn't it? Like you say, the hard work's done. I said it on a podcast ages ago. I think it was one of my first ones with Jodie. I ran a marathon a couple of years ago, and someone said to me, your marathon is done, this is your lap of honor. And I kind of use that for stage now, like my stage time is my lap of honor.
100%, because the hard work is done. Like, the judges don't know how hard you've dieted, how much you've lifted in the gym, or anything like that. They're just going to see what the final package is on that day, and you need to just go out there, and you've done the process, you've done that journey, go out there and shine, and that's what the judges really see.
And so what was that feeling when you got called for first place and you know that you've got that Olympia qualification?
It was just like, I'm not really a big crier. I'm not really, well, sometimes I am, but like never in public like that. But it was just one of those things where I kind of like looked back on like what we'd managed to do, and it was just like everything really paid off. And it was kind of like oh my goodness, we've done this. Because one of my goals as a pro is always to get a pro win. And I know this might sound really weird, but beginning of peak week for Alicante, my dog passed away, and we'd had him for 13 years. And anyone that knows me knows I love dogs. And it was just one of those where it was really emotionally hard, that peak week. And I kind of felt like it was kind of for him as well. Like, I don't know, it was really bizarre, but it was just it was a really good end to what 2020 had kind of started.
Yeah. It's kind of that cherry on the top of the cake, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so how long was there between Alicante and the Olympia? Because there was a bit of kind of toing and froing with the Olympia as well, wasn't it? It was in Vegas, and then it was in Orlando.
Yeah, so we had 10 weeks from that weekend, which was fine, because then we could chill and then pull things in again. But then there was the whole, travel to the States. And then there was the whole, is it Vegas? Is it Orlando? So firstly, I was like, okay, we'll just go do everything as planned. No, carry on with the prep as planned, train as planned. And kind of, it was a waiting game to see what was happening. But the only thing we could really focus on was the prep, because that's what we're doing every day. And then it was just the end of October. So it was like 10 days post show. And Boris was like, oh, we're going into
Surprise!
Yeah. And I was like, oh my goodness, because I'd already sort of researched how to travel to the States, and you couldn't be in the UK for 2 weeks prior to entry, otherwise you wouldn't be able to enter. So I was like, where can I go? And I was like, okay, if I leave middle of November, then I could do 2 weeks and then do a week in the States before the Olympia, so that I'm just adjusted. And then obviously Boris was like, joke, that's not going to happen.
Nice plan.
So I kind of remember talking to Corin. It was actually on Halloween when he announced it, and I was just like, do I go before the 4th of November just to make sure I'm able to get out of the country? Because the last thing I'd want to do is stick to my original plan, get to the airport and they're like, sorry, you can't travel, like there's no international travel. So she was like, if you can do that and make it happen, then do it. And I remember literally in 48 hours, I was like, new flights, new hotel, new location, new country, like, let's just get it done. It was the 3rd of November that I was like, right, let's go.
It's like a crash course in resilience and flexibility, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And normally, like, that kind of pressure would have kind of left me to be like, oh my God, I don't know if I could do this. But it was also kind of the feeling of that pro win, everything we've kind of, all the hurdles we hit to that day. I was like, if that can happen, like anything's possible, like just, we can do this. And I was willing to do whatever it took to make it to the Olympia.
I think the kind of not having time to think about it probably helped as well, because it's like, right, here we go, we've got 4 days, let's make this happen. And so you spent some time out in Mexico, didn't you, before you went into the States?
Yeah.
What's it like out in Mexico? Have you got like a relatively good like gym set up? Like, is the kind of language barrier all right?
Yeah, so it's all right. A lot of them, especially in Cancun, there is a lot of English speakers, or like broken English, because obviously their main language is Spanish over here. So it was quite easy to especially utilize Google Translate. And the gyms are pretty good out here as well. So that was like, okay, boom. The only difference was when I'd hit a supermarket, I'd be like, okay.
You picked up cheese when you thought you had yogurt.
Yeah, sometimes it was a bit challenging, but I was like, Rhea, you can do this. Like, we've got this. And I think it kind of is all part of the adventure, little things like that, you know, we made it possible. So
I suppose it's taught you a huge amount about independence as well. I know, like, traveling on my own as a woman, I've done it previously, like, it feels like a big deal.
Yeah. It's the whole like 2020 experience, and then sort of leaving on November the 3rd and still kind of being away now has really taught me a lot about myself, and I am capable of, you know, just being in a completely different America was fine because I have people there and know people there, but then sort of coming back to Mexico, I was just like, you know, it's kind of a time for me to really like sit down and like evaluate everything, and yeah, it's made me sort of grow more as a person.
Yeah, if you overcome last year and all the hurdles that had, and it's where you can literally do anything. So the Olympia's come round. I'm fascinated. What's it like backstage?
Oh my goodness, Holly, I can only like, words can't, even when I sort of think back to the Olympia now, like I get really like, oh, emotional about it, because it was just such an unbelievable experience. Like, and especially it was really weird because I've had so many people ask me like, how was Vegas in 2019 compared to Orlando? And the vibe is just so different. Like, Vegas was super busy and you're already kind of like, oh my God, this is the Olympia, you've got all of these overwhelming thoughts. But Orlando was so like chilled out and still like incredible, but it was so chill that it was, you could sort of feel it amongst all the competitors that it was like a really and because it was a different venue as well, I was like, oh, this is going to be really interesting. So at the Olympia, you have 2 stages. You've got the stage for prejudging, which everybody walks on, and then you've got the final stage, which is the big stage.
Yeah.
And obviously with the open, all of their showings, all of them get to stand on that stage, but the other categories is normally top 10. So prejudging was awesome because it's like you've all the athletes there, and well, more so in your category. And then finals, I was like, well, it was my first Olympia finals, and it's just, you're in the mix with all the open bodybuilders, you see the women's bodybuilders, women's physique, and it's just like, oh my God, it was absolutely incredible. Like, full gym set up, like, just it absolutely out of this world.
And the people is everyone quite friendly? Because I can imagine it's quite intimidating when you're kind of seeing everyone that you've looked up to, and it's like, oh, I'm here with them.
Oh, hi.
We'll go for a coffee and have a chat.
Why not, Bruce? So yeah, it is one of those where it's like you kind of get taken aback because you've looked up to these people for so long, and now you're kind of sharing the stage with them, doing the circuit with them. But everybody is so lovely, like especially sort of within Figure. It was kind of like when you're kind of new, they kind of just take you in, and it was really nice, really, really nice.
Take you under their wing.
Yeah.
I can imagine it was quite nice having a new venue because it's kind of like new for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not like you don't know your way around, like no one knows their way around.
Yeah. So that was different, trying to kind of navigate everything, especially kind of peak week where I have to be very sedentary. But yeah, it all worked out.
And so what's it like walking on that Olympia stage?
Oh my goodness. So so it was weird because pre-judging I was like weirdly like a bag of nerves. I'm like, snap out of this, Rhea, like it's fine. And it was just like, this is it, like there's no stage that's higher than this.
Yeah.
This is it. And then sort of call outs came around and I was like, oh my goodness, okay, we're in the second call out again. And then it was like, because I knew when I got off stage in 2019 and then sort of learned about, okay, top 10 are the finalists and they get to go on the final stage for finals. Yeah. And I remember watching finals and I was like, I'd love to be there one day. So since that moment in 2019, that's always been in the back of my mind. So when we kind of got call outs and sort of moved around and it was kind of within the center, I was like, I feel like we're in the top 10 here, but you don't know until the evening show. So it was like everything felt really different, really, really different, but just unbelievable.
And how do they tell you whether you've got top 10 or not?
So everyone's backstage at finals and they would literally come round with their list. Number 4, number 11, number 1, number 2, number 6, you're in the top 10, congratulations. And then the others will leave, yeah.
I can imagine like a American film, you know, where they put up like the cheerleader list and like everyone's gathered around.
We meet callbacks. Yeah, it's a little bit like that.
Very American. And so what was the first thing that you did when you stepped off the stage from the Olympia?
I had a ham sandwich. Holly, I had a ham sandwich. At first.
Just a bog standard ham sandwich.
Bog standard ham sandwich in public. Yeah.
No mustard, nothing.
Yeah, lettuce, bit of cucumber, but a ham sandwich. And everyone was like, God, you're so British. I was like, oh, leave me to it.
Where's my cup of tea?
Yeah. But for real, like coming off stage, I was kind of like, oh my goodness. And there was another girl called Anna Banks, and we've kind of, since turning pro, we've always done shows together and went to the Olympia in 2019 together, and then we both made the top 10 at the 2020 Olympia. We were kind of just like, afterwards we got off stage and we were like, is this real life? Like we kind of just had like a moment of like, is this real life? We finally like done this, and especially after the year, and we're kind of like having a bit of reflection. And then I had my ham sandwich.
Let's bring it back down to earth now. I actually love that. I've had an obsession with tea since my last show. So I haven't had a cup of tea for the whole of my prep. Can't drink it without milk. And I got back into the hotel room and we didn't get on stage until like 10, 11 o'clock at night. So it was late. All the food places were shut. And I sat in my hotel room with this cup of tea, and you would have thought it was like some kind of golden nectar. I was just like, this is amazing.
Literally, it's the little things. It's the little things. I was like, good old, ham sandwich, bit of lettuce, bit of cucumber in there, bit of tomato. Perfect.
No pizza, no cheesecake, nothing. Yeah. It's ham sandwich.
sandwich, and then Cheesecake Factory for my salmon and rice.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So if we finish off, I thought it'd be quite nice for us to talk a bit about the figure category as a whole. I know you do quite a lot of posing sessions with girls now, so it'd be really interesting to kind of hear from your point of view. What are the judges looking for in figure? I'm very much bikini girl. I don't know much about figure, so you can educate me.
Yeah, so within figure, they're really looking for balance, especially between the lower body and the upper body, and really looking for the taper within the delts, lats to waist ratio. So really looking for that beautiful taper. In terms of like size, especially now with women's bodybuilding back in the mix, figure has not so much become a size game. It's all about the proportions, because then the boundaries have become so narrow between figure, women's physique and women's bodybuilding. So not so much thinking about, oh, you need to be huge, and that's something that you can really manipulate with your posing. And in terms of conditioning for figure, again, there's a fine line: figure, physique, women's bodybuilding. So they want to see leanness, but they don't really want to see like feathering through the muscles and stuff like that. So yeah.
It's quite interesting because I think the same's happened with bikini. So I think with the introduction of wellness, they pulled bikini back as well. So they're kind of drawing those lines a bit clearer between the categories.
Yeah, for sure.
Which should hopefully help everyone in navigating what they need to look like.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you get any feedback from Olympia?
So yeah, I got some feedback from the Olympia. My feedback was to work on my back, and just sort of bring a little bit more balance and some more leanness. So sort of brought that back to the drawing board, and it's kind of been like, we're gonna improve everything overall.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my Olympia feedback.
And posing wise, when you're watching other figure girls, probably more in the amateur ranks, is there kind of something that you see often in terms of mistake that you, like posing wise, that you think, oh, if you just done this a bit different?
Yeah, well, it's not so much like I think everyone kind of makes it at one point, is sort of in the sort of front and back poses, with really opening up more so the back pose. So for example, you'll get people that open up in their back pose, but they're still kind of not emphasizing leaning back, because the judges are going to be below you. So you need to make sure that whatever pose you're doing, you're really thinking about angling towards the judges.
And I suppose that's the same if you're on like the outside as well, like making sure that you're turning into the judges.
Yeah, for sure.
Amazing. Well, final question. I can't leave this without picking up the first show with the green bikini. So from where you are now, if you could give Rhea at her first show a bit of advice, what would you tell her?
Trust the process. Stop overthinking everything. And literally no more fear, no more doubt.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I think that can be said for most first-time competitors, can't it?
Just everything will work out the way that it's meant to. Just keep working hard and don't give up at your first hurdle, because you never know, like pushing through tough times, the outcome is going to be so much better. And I always sort of relate that back to the season of 2020. Like we had so many hurdles of, you know, being in Australia, was I going to compete in 2020? And then I was like, what if we made this something special? And we got our first pro win and top 10 at the Olympia. So it's something where I'm like, if you have a hurdle, just keep pushing.
I mean, you could be so close, couldn't you? Like you said, you could have, at that Halloween point, you could have gone, no, this is too difficult, I'm not going to do it. And then, like you say, you wouldn't have got to the Olympia and you wouldn't have got the top 10.
Yeah.
It's just pushing that little bit more.
100%.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. I feel like I've made it now. I've had me on the podcast.
Honestly, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed this episode. I will tag Rhea's Instagram in the comments below. I'm sure you're all following her already. And yeah, if you ever need any figure posing, Rhea is your girl. So I will catch you all in the next episode.